So the topic we will be discussing today is Birchas HaTorah, but not only Birchas HaTorah in general, but specifically, what do you do Shvius in the morning when you're up all night learning Torah? So those, there are two different minhagim. In my shiur, we have two minyanim. One is an eitz minyan. You're up all night, and then you daven eitz. I am up ad alois shachar, then I go home for a nap, and I come back to the 9 o'clock minyan. Because I'm Rav of a shul, and that is the bigger minyan, that is the central minyan. So if you go to sleep in the morning, you have no problem with Birchas HaTorah. When you get up after you sleep in the morning, and it definitely is a Shinas Kva, because a half hour is a Shinas Kva, you say Birchas HaTorah. Those people that daven with an eitz, they have the big question, do we say Birchas HaTorah in the morning or not? Reb Shlomo, was that the sugi you discussed?
Well, the Rav sent us, the Ben sent us 3 different shiurim, so maybe we'll request the Rav to divide this and give us another week. He sent us the shiur klali on the background of the Birchas Shevach, etc. v'chovah mista'ef. He sent us the shiur on Birchas HaTorah, learning before Birchas HaTorah, and he sent us the shiur on Shavous. So all 3 of them are equally fine. If the Rav wants to begin with Shavous, that would be wonderful. And we'll...
Okay, I'll just give the introduction, what the question is, and then we will go over to what Birchas HaTorah is. So the question is, you're up all night. Do you need to say Birchas HaTorah in the morning? And there are 2 seifim in Shulchan Aruch Sememem Zayin. Sememem Zayin are all the halachas of Birchas HaTorah, and we focus on Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Yud Aleph is a very brief siman. Shinas kva biyom al mitosoi. Havi hefsek. V'yesh omrim de lo have hefsek. V'chein nahagu. This seif is somewhat of an enigma. It is a contradiction minei ubei, because one of the most fundamental klolim in the formula of the Shulchan Aruch is when he brings 2 opinions. Which of the 2 opinions is halacha? So the Yad Malachi is the most important source of these klolim. The Yad Malachi says, if the Shulchan Aruch brings 2 opinions, one stam and the other one yesh oimrim, the halacha is always accordance to opinion number 1. If the Shulchan Aruch writes yesh oimrim kach, the yesh oimrim kach, then the halacha is accordance to opinion number 2. So when we have a look at our sif, shinas kva biyoim al mitosoi havi hefsek v'yesh oimrim de lo have hefsek. What would the halacha be? Opinion number 1, because that is stam v'achar kach yesh oimrim. However, Shulchan Aruch says v'chein nahagu. So the minhag goes against halacha, because when the Shulchan Aruch brings 2 opinions, if both opinions are yesh oimrim, the halacha is opinion number 2. If opinion number 1 is stam, the halacha is opinion number 1. So in this sif, halacha would be, it is a hefsek, and you need to say Birchas HaTorah when you get up, if you take an afternoon nap. But the Shulchan Aruch says, the minhag is opinion number 2. So let me go one more step ahead in the Yad Malachi. And actually, I should have sent over the Yad Malachi in this package. The Yad Malachi asks a fundamental question. If there are rules, and the rule says, Stam v'yesh oimrim halacha kestam, yesh oimrim v'yesh oimrim halacha kebasroi. Why does the Shulchan Aruch bring 2 opinions at all? Anybody that learns fundamental halacha, and he learns the Beis Yosef, realizes that almost every seif in Shulchan Aruch, there's a machlokes. But in the vast majority of seifim in Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber doesn't bring all the opinions, Shulchan Aruch just brings halacha psuka. So why, in many sources, does he bring two different opinions? The Yad Malachi explains. Whenever the Shulchan Aruch brings two different opinions, even though the halachic ruling is either opinion number one or opinion number two, but there is credence and significance in the other opinion as well. And it is not nidcha legamri min ha'halacha. What would be the nafka mina if the secondary opinion she'ein halacha k'moisei is a kula v'sha'asatcha yesh lahakel? If the secondary opinion she'ein halacha k'moisei is a chumra, we would say hamachmir tovay olav bracha. So fundamentally, whenever the Shulchan Aruch brings two different opinions, even though we have a rule, is the first opinion accepted halacha or the second one, but both opinions are legitimate, are valid, even though ikar ha'halacha is according to number one or number two. And therefore, in our sif, it would not be a teime gedola that the minig is in accordance to opinion number two, even though the more accepted one is number one. So once again, this sif in Shulchan Aruch deals with the question: if you sleep a shinas kva, and a half hour is considered a shinas kva, that's a hefsik, and you should say Birchas HaTorah when you get up. But as we all know, that is not the minig. I don't think we ever met somebody that says Birchas HaTorah twice a day, in the morning, in the afternoon. I think in America, less people take an afternoon nap. People go to work, they're busy, they come home late afternoon, they rush to the shiur. And that's a sure more people take an afternoon nap. I don't sleep much at night. I don't sleep well at night. And if I don't have a short nap in the afternoon, it's really hard for me to function by night. But nobody says Birchas HaTorah after an afternoon nap. So the minhag is, yesh omrim, the lo have a hefsek. What is the question? What is the basis of this discussion? Source number two, the Beis Yosef brings the Machlokes Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. How do we define Birchas HaTorah? We're not up to Sif Yud Beis. We're going to come to Sif Yud Beis at a later stage. The Beis Yosef brings the Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. So, what does Birchas HaTorah depend on? The Rosh maintains it's like any Birchas HaMitzvah. And because it's like Birchas HaMitzvah, it all depends on hefsek. Because of Adoni Ovi, B'tshuva, She'av B'yoimim, Yoshin Shineschla, Tzorech Lavorach, V'gam B'psokim Kosav Kain, U'komoi Shekosavti B'samach, Elem B'pnei Shesavti B'tshuva, Lo Kosav B'psokim Kosav Beinu, Kol Advorim B'shem Tshuva. He apologizes why the Torah brings the tshuva and not Piskei Rosh. But the opinion of the Rosh is it all depends on hefsek and hesach hadas. That is the opinion of the Rosh. Rabbeinu Tam, which he brings the last two lines, afilu shinas kol halayla lo hava hefsek kamo she'echtav b'samach. Ein halacha k'moisei. Afal pisha ein halacha k'moisei, mipnei shekol haposkim chol k'nolav, haina b'shinas halayla, b'shinas hayoyim, yesh lochos l'dvarav, v'chein ha'agam ha'olam, shelo lavorach v'yoyim afilu achar shinas kva. Rabbeinu Tam maintains that Birchas HaTorah is like Birchas HaShachar. Every day in the morning, you need to say Birchas HaTorah. Just like the 15 brochas that are defined as Birchas HaShachar. Siman Mem Vav is Birchas HaShachar. Mem Zayin is Birchas HaTorah. According to Rabbeinu Tam, they are the same concept. A new day, you thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. According to the Rosh, Birchas HaTorah is like Birchas HaMitzvah. It all depends on hefsek. You took off your tzitzis for 2 or 3 hours, you put your tzitzis back on, you need to make a bracha, l's'atem b'tzitzis, or on mitzvah tzitzis, even though you said it in the morning. The same with tefillin. You took off your tefillin, there's hesech hadas, you put them back on, you say the bracha again. You said the bracha on your tefillin in the morning, you say it again. The same goes for Birchas HaTorah. And therefore, according to the Rosh, if you take an afternoon nap, that's a hefsek. That's hesech hadas. You need to say Birchas HaTorah again. According to Rabbeinu Tam, you don't say Birchas HaShachar twice a day. You don't say Birchas HaTorah twice a day. So this is a fundamental question, a disagreement. How do we define Birchas HaTorah? Is it like Birchas HaMitzvah and it depends on hefsek, or is it like Birchas HaShachar and it is relevant to every day, and you only say it once a day, like the 15 Birchas HaShachar that we say every day in the morning? And that is the fundamental question. Does one say a bracha after an afternoon nap? According to the Rosh, yes, because that's a hefsek. According to Rabbeinu Tam, no. The other side of this very same coin is, I was up all night, and I learned Torah all night, like Shavous by night. Do I need to say a bracha when I get up in the morning? According to the Rosh, no, because there is no hefsek. According to Rabbeinu Tam, yes, because it's a new day, every day in the morning. So the fundamental question is, what is the mechayev of Birchas HaTorah? Is it like Birchas HaMitzvah? Or is it like Birchas HaShachar? And if we delve deeper into this question, it is not only what is the mechayev, but what is the essence. And I don't know whether in our package we have the brisker of. Do we have the brisker of in Hilchas Brochas?
We do.
Oh, so let's have the brisker of. And the brisker of quotes his great father, Reb Chaim. Defining Birchas HaTorah. Is Birchas HaTorah al mitzvahs Talmud Torah, or is it, to use the brisker language, on the cheftza of Torah? What is Birchas HaTorah? How do we define Birchas HaTorah? Could we have the brisker of on our screen? I'll appreciate that.
It's right there. It's right there. The snippet is right there. Kvod Rav. Chedushim Marnus Alevi.
Okay, so there's something wrong with my screen. I don't know why I see a one on the screen, but I don't have the sources. I think that depends on you, not on me, right?
It's on our screen. We're staring at it.
Okay, how do I get back to you? Okay, I'm not very good in these systems, but I see all you people instead of seeing the source material. Anyway.
Can anybody help the Rav out?
Here we are. I was successful. Okay. Kvar hikshu. Noshim avorches Birchas HaTorah. That's a psak in Shulchan Aruch at the end of Simon Mem Zayin. Ubtureis metal metorah. Ubi yoyse kosher l'shittas Rambam that women cannot say a bracha on a mitzvah that they're not mechuyev. V'shomati mepi ad meragon achosit she'omar. The Birchas HaTorah ein a bracha al kiyum ha-mitzvah shel talmid Torah, rak shu din b'fnei atzmai de Torah boye bracha. Kedi alfina b'brachas chaf aleph ki shemesh shem echra v'ze lo shayach lemitzvah klal. Torah atzma te'una bracha. V'noshim pturis rak ma mitzvah shel talmid Torah, but they still have the cheftza of talmid Torah If it's brisk, then we need to find chefza. If it's brisk, it needs to be chefza. And that is why women could say Birchas HaTorah. So Reb Chaim Brisker said, Birchas HaTorah is not on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. It is on the chefza of Torah. And maybe that is the machlokes Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. The Rosh compares Birchas HaTorah to Birchas HaMitzvah. And therefore it depends on hefsek. Rabbeinu Tam compares Birchas HaTorah to Birchas HaShachar. It has nothing to do with hefsek. It is every day. Now, there is no necessity to say that the machlokes Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam is whether Birchas HaTorah is Birchas HaMitzvah or Birchas HaShevach. So let me explain. The concepts, Birchas HaMitzvah, Birchas HaShevach, are mid'Rabbanan. Because all Birchas HaMitzvah are d'Rabbanan, and all Birchas HaShevach are d'Rabbanan. But we do have two mitzvahs that are min HaTorah. One, L'Kuli Alma, beyond doubt, and that is Birchas HaMazon. V'achalto, v'savato, v'virachto, es Hashem Elokecha. The other one, according to most poskim, not all of them, is Birchas HaTorah. The Gemara in Brachos Daf Chaf Aleph, Ki Shemesh Shemekro, Havagoydel Elokeinu. Birchas HaMazon is definitely Birchas HaShevach v'Hidayah. We thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for enabling us to eat, to live. And that is a Birchas Hanan, which essentially is a Birchas Hidayah. So the question is, how do we define Birchas HaTorah? Is it on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah or on the chefza of Torah? Maybe that is the machlokes Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. Not necessarily, but it is reasonable to argue. If the Rosh compares Birchas HaTorah to Birchas HaMitzvah, and it all depends on hefsek, so maybe Birchas HaTorah is about mitzvahs Talmud Torah. If the Rabbeinu Tam compares Birchas HaTorah to Birchas HaShachar, then probably it's Birchas HaShevach. So we have two disagreements between the Beis Yosef and the Gra in Siman Mem Zayin. Let's have a look at Sif Yudaled, and that's the Sif the Briskerov is quoting. It's not on my short list, but you definitely have it in your package. Siman Mem Zayin Sif Yudaled. And then we go over to Mem Zayin Sif Dalet. We start off with Yudaled, and then we'll go back to Sif Dalet. Siman Mem Zayin Shulchan Aruch Yudaled. Here we are. Noshim Mevorches Birchas HaTorah. The Gaon disagrees. And if we can have the Bira Girl, that'll be wonderful. And the Gaon says, how could we say Noshim Mevorches Birchas HaTorah? Chazal clearly say.
Yeah, I'm about to the package earlier.
V'limadetam oisem es benechem v'lo es benoisechem.
The Gaon, please.
Talmud Torah.
No, the Gaon in your other package.
The Gaon.
In your other, there we go.
I don't think we have the Gaon in this one.
No, we have everything. So, yeah, there you go. Here it is.
Here we are. Down. The next figure, number 4. So the Gaon brings, v'divrayim dechuyim, mekame ponim, v'krot zaveach, v'limadetem es benechem, v'lo benesechem, v'hayach, torma v'tzivanu, v'nosen lano. And therefore the Gaon says, Noshim do not say Birchas HaTorah. We scroll up, source number 1. Hamaharer b'divrei Torah einoi tzorech levorach. Once again, the Gaon disagrees. Kol zeh tzorech iyun. V'kam mevorach al mitzvah. V'chilek mitzvah behirur, second paragraph. V'chilek mitzvah behirur, v'alo nema v'giso b'yoyim v'layla. Rotzeloi mebeleiv. So the Gaon disagrees with the psak of the Shulchan Aruch. So these two seifim are a machlokes the Shulchan Aruch and the Gaon. In one, the Gaon is a machmir, and the other one, he's a mekel. But I think both machlokes, both two disagreements are two sides of the same coin. What is Birchas HaTorah about? Is it a mitzvahs Talmud Torah or the cheftza of Torah? And the Gaon in both halachas argues Birchas HaTorah is on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. And therefore, Hamahara b'divrei Torah needs to say a bracha because it definitely is a mitzvah. V'hogisu bo yomam v'layla. V'hogisu means machshava, hedyon libi. What would the Shulchan Aruch say? Shulchan Aruch would say, why are you confusing Birchas HaTorah with mitzvahs Talmud Torah? Birchas HaTorah is not on the mitzvahs, Birchas HaShevach, and the Posuk says, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra. And if you do not vocalize and verbalize, you don't have a mitzvah Birchas HaTorah. And the same disagreement is by Noshim. Sif Yudaled. The Beis Yosef explains, Noshim learn, they need to learn.
Hello?
They need to know how to perform their mitzvahs. And therefore, they need to say a bracha. The Gaon says, no, but they're potter from Talmud Torah. And if they're potter from the mitzvah, they cannot say the bracha. So the Gaon and the Beis Yosef seem to have this very question. Is Birchas HaTorah on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah or on the cheftza of Talmud Torah, like the Brisker Rav explains? So the opinion of the Shulchan Aruch in both counts, cheftza, not mitzvah. And maybe that is Shittas Rabbeinu Tam, not necessarily, but maybe. And therefore Rabbeinu Tam says it doesn't depend on hefsek. And that is the minhag. Many years ago, Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein spoke to me about a question he asked his Shver Moron Harav Yosef. So I don't know, many of you know Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein. He is, since the Archikala began in Yerushalayim, he is one of the highlights of the Archikala. And many of you know his form. Some his form were translated into English and they're bestsellers. And he has a very interesting style. It's always interesting, always relevant. And he has these strange questions. And sometimes his questions are thought-provoking and interesting, and not only his answers. So Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein spoke to me. This doesn't happen in New York, doesn't happen in Hong Kong or in Buenos Aires, but in Israel. You get into a cab, and many times the cab driver would say, Rebbe, tagid mashu, share dvar Torah. You look at the person, he's not wearing a yarmulke. It's very unlikely that he said Birchas HaTorah in the morning. Is a person allowed to learn Torah if he didn't say Birchas HaTorah? That goes against the halacha. Just like you can't eat without saying a bracha. If a person is Makayim Mitzvahs Lulav without a bracha, or he eats matzah without saying Asher Kadeshona b'misvaysav, he's mevatel a mitzvah. So you're not allowed to learn before Birchas HaTorah. So what should I do if the taxi driver says, please, share dvar Torah? If I will tell him, okay, stop, pull over, put on a kippah, say Birchas HaTorah, the guy will say, don't be a pain in the neck, forget it. He won't pull over. And sometimes it'll be illegal to pull over. And for a taxi driver, time is money. They'll say, Hakenishin cup. You know that expression, Yiddish. So could we share that Torah with a person who was more likely or didn't say Birchas HaTorah? And this question is extremely relevant for Kiruv activists. So we're giving a lecture, and many young Jewish boys and girls come, people that aren't from, and we're teaching them Torah. None of them said Birchas HaTorah. And many times I say, people that engage in Kiruv before the lecture say Birchas HaTorah. But we already said Birchas HaTorah in the morning. You could be moitzi others. But Tzorech Kavanas Shemeh V'Kavanas Mashiach. And if these kids aren't from, I'm not sure how serious we could take their intention when they say, okay, say Birchas HaTorah will be Yotzeh. So that was the question that Yitzchak Zilberstein asked. Could we share a Dvar Torah with a person who in all probability did not say Birchas HaTorah? He asked the Shver. And Rabbi Yosef said, because they're not machavan the Shem mitzvahs Talmud Torah, they don't have a mitzvah Birchas HaTorah. But that is only according to the Gra, that Birchas HaTorah is on the mitzvah. According to what we saw in these two Piskei Halacha from the Shulchan Aruch, and according to what the Brisker Rav quotes from his great father, it doesn't really matter whether you're machavan Hashem mitzvahs Talmud Torah. They know it's Torah. They're aware that it's Torah. The taxi driver asks you to share a Dvar Torah. So Rabbi Yosef responds, his answer is partial. It doesn't really solve the problem. So this shaila really depends. How do we define Birchas HaTorah? Is it Birchas HaMitzvah or Birchas HaShevach? Is it on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah or on the mere learning of Torah? Let me share with you my mahalach. And what I say now is profound, and I know it's a chiddush, but I'm so convinced that this is Torah Semes. And the Agudah I want to share with you is La'olam ein levatel iker mipnei hatofel. What is secondary does never override what comes first. Birchas HaTorah is only because of the centrality, the importance, the chashivus, the essentiality of Talmud Torah. And every day in the morning, we start off our davening with the Mishnah Masechet Peah, v'Talmud Torah keneged kulam, ele dvorim she'elem shiur, ele dvorim she'adam oichel periseihem v'Talmud Torah keneged kulam. Talmud Godel she'Talmud me'ver l'dei Weiss. So learning Torah is the most important mitzvah. And the only reason we have a mitzvah of Birchas HaTorah, whether it's Min HaTorah or Min HaRabbanan, is because of the importance of Talmud Torah. Especially according to the Rishonim, that Birchas HaTorah is the Oraisa, or the other Birchas HaMitzvah Min HaRabbanan. So you're never mevatel Talmud Torah because of Birchas HaTorah. I just want to stress the point. What would be the halacha about Shiur? He's a beginner. He doesn't know any brachas. He can't quote a bracha without a siddur. And Sukkos, he went for a tiyur. He took along Daled Minim, but he forgot to take a siddur. And he's out there, who knows where, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Niagara Falls, on a safari in Zambia. I don't know where he is, with the kangaroos in Australia. He has his Daled Minim, it's Chalamoid Sukkos. He doesn't have a siddur. He forgot his smartphone, so he can't check the Nusach HaBrocha on his phone. He also has no one to call. What is he supposed to do? Netilas lulav without a bracha? Or would we say it's an aveda to do a mitzvah without a bracha? So forego mitzvahs lulav. What would be the bigger Aveda? Bitul mitzvahs lulav or bitul birchas lulav? Brachas midrabanan. Lulav kol shiva is midrabanan. Only Yerushalayim called shiva is dioraisa. By Niagara Falls, Wyoming, Zambia, Australia, lulav is only midrabanan chalamayit. Both are mitzvahs derabanan. What would we say? Shakal your lulav without a bracha, or just don't take your lulav? Every sensitive person, and all of you would definitely say, what are you, out of your mind? Of course, take your lulav. Take your lulav without a bracha. Even though one might argue, if I take the lulav without a bracha, I'm oive bekum v'asei. If I don't take the lulav, it's sheva al ta'aseh. So maybe it would be preferable forego mitzvahs lulav than take your lulav without a bracha. And to me, that's insane. That's crazy. Of course, it's better to be mekayim mitzvahs lulav without a bracha than to be mevatel entirely mitzvahs lulav. Why is that? Mitzvahs lulav ikar, the bracha is a tofel. Ve'ein levatel ikar mepnei atofel. And if that is correct by lulav, Birchas HaTorah al achas kama v'kama. We're never mevatel Torah because we can't say Birchas HaTorah. And because we know with certainty, if we will tell that cab driver, pull over, put on a kippah, say Birchas HaTorah, it just won't work. It's ridiculous. And therefore, teach Torah. Teach Torah without a bracha. So when you're giving a lecture, and totally secular kids are coming to hear your lecture, and you want to teach them Torah, and it's not practical to say Birchas HaTorah, teach them without Birchas HaTorah. The ikar always overrides what is tofel and secondary. That is my answer to this interesting question that Yitzchak Zilberstein spoke to me about, and that goes back 25 years. So coming back to what he started off today's Shiur. This is a machlokes between the Beis Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch. Maybe that is a machlokes between Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. And we go all the way back to the two seifim in Shulchan Aruch, Yud Aleph and Yud Beis. Top of the page with what we started off with. Not on this package, on the previous one. Here we are. I think that we had it on the first package. This one, to the beginning of this one. Here we are. So Sif Yud Aleph. The first opinion is the Rosh. If it's a hefsek, you need to say the bracha. And that's why after a nap in the afternoon, you say a bracha. According to this opinion, you're up all night, you don't say a bracha. Yeshoimem de lo yav hefsek. That's the Beinu Tam. If you don't say a bracha in the afternoon, because it doesn't depend on hefsek, but rather each day, then you do say a bracha in the morning. So the meaning is in accordance to the Beinu Tam. You don't say a bracha in the afternoon. Then you should say a bracha in the morning. That goes against Yud Beis. Now we learn Sif Yud Beis. In all halachas shebetoira, yoim hoylech achar halayla. So to us, every day begins at Seisek Yechovim. And this is obvious in Shabbos. Shabbos starts at the Shkia. It ends Seisek Yechovim. The same Yom Kippur. And the Yom Tovim. Me'erev ad erev. Birchas HaTorah is an exception. And that's the essence of Sif Yud Beis. You say Birchas HaTorah in the morning. You don't say Birchas HaTorah by night. even though by halachic definition, every day begins with the night. Birchas HaTorah is different. And Birchas HaTorah you say from morning to morning, not me'erev ad erev, from morning to morning. That is the essence of Yud Beis. However, the Mogen Avraham learns halacha from the last two words in this seif. Let's go over the seif again. Af em lomed balaylo. Alayla holech achar hayom she'over ve'eino tzorech lachze ve'lavorech kol zman shelo yishan. That means, as long as you didn't go to bed, you don't say Birchas HaTorah. If you went to bed, when you get up, you say Birchas HaTorah. The Mogen Avraham, and that is on source number 3 in our sheet. The Mogen Avraham, kol zman shelo yishan, mashma, the imneir kol halaylo ein tzorech levorech b'boker. Mashma from the Lashon HaShulchan Aruch is, if you're up all night and you didn't go to sleep at all, you don't say Birchas HaTorah in the morning. And now the Mogen Avraham has a very big question. According to Rabbeinu Tam, why not? According to Rabbeinu Tam, and that's the minhag, as we see in Sif Yud Aleph. The minhag is Rabbeinu Tam. Doesn't depend on hefsek. It's like Birchas HaShachar. So why wouldn't you say a brocha in the morning even though you did not sleep? And the Mogen Avraham doesn't answer this question. He's troubled. So Sif Yud Beis seems to contradict Sif Yud Aleph. Because if the minhag is in accordance to Rabbeinu Tam, then why don't you say a brocha in the morning? Comes along Rabbi Akiva Eiger. And Rabbi Akiva Eiger argues, we are all familiar with the concept Safek Brachas Lahakal. Let me explain. When we analyze Sif Yud Aleph, I explained Ikar Hadin Kishitas Arosh, because that is Stam va'achakach yesh oimrim. The halacha fundamentally, the halachic ruling is according to the Rosh. You should say a brocha in the afternoon, but the minhag is we don't. Why not? Because Safek Brachas Lahakal. Yes, Rabbeinu Tam is the more accepted ruling. However, as I explained from the Ad Malachi, there is credence to the opinion of the Rosh as well. And that is why we prefer not to make a bracha. So regarding the second question, you're up all night. You had no hefsek. It's Shavous by night. You learned all night. You say a bracha in the morning. According to the Rabbeinu Tam, yes. According to the Rosh, no. So halacha l'maisa we don't, because ikar halacha kishitas harosh. And it should be no wonder that we're machmir on both counts, because Safek Brachas Lahakal. We're up all night, we don't say a bracha because according to the Rosh, you shouldn't say a bracha, there was no hefsek. In the afternoon, we didn't say a bracha because we're choshesh kishitas Rabbeinu Tam. It doesn't depend on hefsek, but rather on the day. And therefore, we won't say a bracha, neither after Shinas Kvar B'Tzorayim, nor when we're up all night, because Safek Brachas Lahakal. Now the Akiva Eiger comes up with a spark of genius. And he says, if you sleep Erev Shavuos in the afternoon, and our minhag is in accordance to Shulchan, we didn't say Birchas HaTorah, and then you're up all night, in the morning, Mimanavshach, you could say a bracha. Because according to both opinions, now you're chayiv in Birchas HaTorah. According to the Rosh, you should have said Birchas HaTorah yesterday in the afternoon, and you didn't. According to Rabbeinu Tam, you should say a bracha in the morning, even if there was no hefsek. So if you slept in the afternoon, and then you're up all night, Mimanavshach, you could say a bracha in the morning. I'm an anikel of the Maram Ash. The Meir Ash, his sefer Shavous Shavous Imrei Eish. Imrei is the letters of Meir. Meir Ash. Ash is abbreviation of Eisenstadt. And the Meramash was the greatest disciple of the Chassam Sofer. There's a Sefer Zichron Yehuda, his Minhagim, Divrei Torah, and a Zichron Yehuda. This psak, this idea is quoted in the name of Meramash. Obviously, he didn't see Rabbi Akiva Eiger, who was his Rebbe's Rebbe. The Chassam Sofer was the son-in-law of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. The Chassam Sofer saw himself as a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva Eiger, and the Meramash says the same. So I, as an Einikel of the Meramash, like to quote him as well. And this is a spark of genius, which is Ois gehalten halacha lamaisa. So let me just add on a practical point. It's going to be very difficult to be up all night if you didn't take a nap Erev Shavuos. And if you took a nap Erev Shavuos, and like Minig Olim, you didn't say Birchas HaTorah, and then you're up all night, Miman Efshach, you could say Birchas HaTorah in the morning. And that is the solution. However, my psak is, you're up all night, you want to daven with an eitz, even if you didn't sleep Erev Shavuos, you could say Birchas HaTorah. Because the minhag is kishitos Rabbeinu Tam. However, this would not be considered a stira in the Shulchan Aruch, as I explained. We won't say Birchas HaTorah if you're up all night. We also won't say if you slept in the afternoon, because Sofet Brachas L'Halka. And the Shulchan Aruch quotes both opinions in Sif Yudala. When he quotes both opinions, even though Ikar ha'halocha k'shittas harash, however, there is credence to Shittas Rabbeinu Tam as well. And therefore, Sofek Brachas L'Halka on both counts. If you slept in the afternoon, you're up all night, Lekuli Alma, you could say Birchas HaTorah in the morning. So, this is the question everybody deals with. What do you do?
It has to be a Shinas Kva in the afternoon? It has to be a full half hour?
Yes, yes. There are different opinions what is a Shinas Kva. But the Achronim say half hour is definitely defined as a Shinas Kva. And Reb Shloime, it also needs to be in bed. Many times, people in shul put down their heads. The Shulchan Aruch specifies Shinas Kva b'tzorayim al mitosoi. That is a criteria of a Shinas Kva. It needs to be in bed. If you lie on a bench in shul, or you put your head down on the table, as is very common by Bnei Torah in shul, that is not a Shinas Kva. And in that case, L'kul Alma, you do not say a brocha when you get up. It needs to be a half hour in bed. So today we dealt with halacha l'maisa. What do you do Shavuos in the morning? But we also dealt with the fundamental definition. What is Birchas HaTorah? Birchas HaShevach or Birchas HaMitzvah? Next week, I think we could have a fascinating discussion. I think it's going to be very interesting. We're going to deal with the Heishev Moshe. And the Heishev Moshe argues the Rosh is right, and the Rabbeinu Tam is right, and the Rosh is wrong. And he writes, I have a raya brura psuka v'chaluto. And whenever an Achron would say, I have a raya brura psuka v'chaluta against the Rishon, I always have this urge to say, really? You think so? You think you're smarter than the Rosh? Let's check. So next week, I think we're going to have a fascinating shiur, hopefully. I always try it to be fascinating. But before we say goodbye, I want to ask a very fundamental question. When we deal with the question, how do we define Birchas HaTorah? Reb Chaim Brisker, is it Shevach or Mitzvah? Isn't it both? We have two brachas. Number one definitely is Birchas HaMitzvah. That's the fundamental formula of Birchas HaMitzvah. Asher kedishono b'mitzvos v'tzivonu v'asik b'divrei Torah. Isn't that Birchas HaMitzvah? How do we define Asher kedishono b'mitzvos v'tzivonu if not Birchas HaMitzvah? And then the second bracha is Asher bocher banu mekol ha'amin. Could we define that as anything besides Birchas HaShevach? Isn't it as clear as daylight that the two brachas are different concepts? Number one is Birchas HaTorah and number two is Birchas HaShevach. So if I would be the one to decide, and I say this naturally with a touch of humor, if I would be the boiler to decide who was right, the Beis Yosef or the Gra, I would say, you're both right and you're both wrong. Elu v'elu divrei Elokim chayim. The first bracha is Birchas HaMitzvah. So women cannot say the first bracha. They can't say Asher kedishono b'mitzvos v'tzivonu. But they could say Asher bocher banu because that's Birchas HaShevach. They have a kesher with Torah, noshim b'ma'izachya. They could say the Birchas HaShevach. And regarding the other question, hamaharer b'divrei Torah, I would say, hamaharer, you should definitely say Asher kedishono b'mitzvos, it's a mitzvah. But maybe you can't say Birchas HaShevach. Why doesn't anybody say that? So that's a question we will be dealing with next week.
Somebody raised the question of whether Noshim can make the bracha because of a kruya b'nayla like Nishta. When they take their children to school, they should make a Birchas HaTorah.
Definitely not, because Birchas HaTorah is on learning Torah, according to both counts, whether it's Birchas HaShevach or Birchas HaMitzvah, but it definitely is, the Machayev is learning Torah. Taking your kids to school would not necessitate or permit Birchas HaTorah. So we have a lot on our plate next week. We're going to start off with a fundamental question. Isn't Birchas HaTorah both? Bracha number one and bracha number two. And then we will have some additional discussions. So next week we keep up our study on Birchas HaTorah b'siyata d'shmaya. Have a beautiful Yom Tov, and let us all hope we will have a very meaningful Leil Shvius. So there are different minhagim what we do Leil Shvius. The Shloah Kodesh composed the Tikkun, and the Tikkun Leil Shvius is a compilation of Torah Shebachsav, Torah Shebarpeh, Taryag Nisa, Shisha Siddur, and Mishnah. But the very first source that you need to learn Shvius by night is in Zohar, and the Shloah Kodesh has gewaldige stories about how important learning all night is by Leil Shvius. So there are different minhagim. The Litvische world in yeshivas Meiter just learn all night. Most Chassidim say Tikkun. Because I belong to both camps, my minig is achois b'seh v'gam ezel tanut yotro. Part of the night I learn. I say some Tikkun. 2:30 in the morning, I give a Shiur in my shul, and many people from other shuls come together. And my Shiur, Shvius by night, 2:30 in the morning, is always about some sugya of Talmud Torah, of Simchas HaTorah. So there are different minhagim. Shvius is the only Yom Tov in which we don't have any mitzvahs. Sukkos, we have two gewaltige mitzvahs. We have Sukkah and Lulav. Pesach, we have tons of mitzvahs. Shavuos has no specific mitzvah. So because we don't have any mitzvahs in Shavuos, minhagim takes center stage. And in Shavuos, there are two fundamental minhagim. One is being up all night and learning Torah. And the other one is a minig Ashkenaz, brought in the Ramah, Machorei dvash v'cholav, blinches and cheesecake. Interesting. So Psachim Samaches is a machlekes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. One pasuk says Atzeres Elohim. The other pasuk says Atzeres Lashem. How do we reconcile the pasuk? Is it Lochem or Lashem? Rabbi Eliezer ben Harkana says every person could choose. Either you learn all day Order your eat and drink and enjoy. Simchas aguf or simchas nefesh. Each and every one could choose. Rabbi Shua says no. Chetzir lashem vechetzir lochem. You need to divide your day. Yom Tov, part of the day needs to be dedicated to Ruchnius, to Torah and Tefillah. Part of the day, Achila v'Shtiyah. And then the Gemara says something surprising. Hakal moedim batzeres the be'ina beinam elochem. Shavous is an exception. And Shavous, everybody agrees. Eat and drink, have a good time. And that's counterintuitive. I'm sure that if any one of us would be asked, which of the Shorosh HaGolim are you entitled to learn all day and all night? We would instinctively, intuitively say Shavous, it's Kabbalah's HaTorah. And the Gemara gives that very same reason. No. Atzeres, everybody agrees you need to have a good time, eat and drink. My Tama, Yom Shenit Torah, is an important Rashi. Rashi says, Laharos, to prove and to show, Shenoyach v'mekubel olav Yom Shenit Torah Yisrael. You need to prove that this is a lovely day, a happy day, and we're happy, and that is why we rejoice. Rashi writes, Laharos, whom do we want to show? To whom are we showing off? To whom do we want to show? To our children, to the younger generation. They should not think that the Torah life is a life of tsar and difficulty, and it's hard. And that is why Dafka Yom Kabbalah's HaTorah, Laharis, we want to teach our children, choose the Torah way. It's not only for your Olam Haba, it's for your Olam Haza. There's no greater enriching, fulfilling, happy life than living a life of Torah. I was in America not long ago. I met a person. I won't say where, I won't say when, and I will change all the details. Mishum Kvoid Ha'odam Kvoid Abrias. I met a person. I was told he's fabulously rich, and I went to see him, and we had a discussion. He asked me how many children I have. I said I have 7 children. He asked me how many grandchildren. Mishum Eina Bisha, a lot. And then he gives a sigh, he gives a krechz, and he says, I have 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. None are married yet. He's my age. He says, my oldest daughter just got engaged. I'm not very happy about the shidduch. She's a Sephardi girl. He's an Ashkenazi guy. But my other 5 kids don't seem to be interested in getting married. And my dream, he says, my dream is to have a grandchild. And I had so much rachmanis on him. He's my age. He's fabulously rich. But it's so sad. So the Torah way is the way that gives you Olam Haza, not only Olam Haba. So yes, blinches and cheesecake are part of Shavous. Laharos. To whom? To whom do we need to show? Not the strangers, our kids. They should understand learning Torah will bring you happiness. Ashrecho b'yolam hazeh v'toiv lacha la'olam haba. Many years ago.
Quick question, if you're okay.
Yeah. Many
What
years
happened with this Eid with the unmarried children? What bracha did the Rav give him?
My bracha to him was that all your kids should make a switch in their minds They all should find proper zevugim. Each of them should have a big family, and you should be busy with your Einiklech for many wonderful years to come. Just as I am busy with my Einiklech, Baruch Hashem, for many wonderful years to come. No greater pleasure than teaching your Einiklech and learning Torah and enjoying your family, and enjoying your Shabbos, and enjoying your learning, and enjoying your davening. So yes, that is why cheesecake is part of Shavous. So there are two different minhagim regarding your Melech Yesuda. Our minhag is Shabbos in the morning by Kiddush. That's when we have Melechiks. But in Ashkenaz in Germany, in many cases they had a Melech meal by night. My feeling is, no, your blinches should wait till the morning. You don't start Kabbalah HaTorah with blinches. It's not the right way to start this day. After learning all night and not saying one Dvorim B'Telem, after dedicating an entire night to Omer HaTorah, B'dinhu sheyital schorei. In the morning, you deserve your blinches. You are up all night, you learn Torah, you set Tikkan El Shavuos. In the morning, have a good time. Now you deserve your cheesecake and your blinches, but it's not the right way to start off Yom Kabbalah HaTorah. So these two minhagim are two signs of this very special day of Kabbalah HaTorah. And Hakal Moedem Ba'atzeres the Be'inan Beinam Elochem Laharis Shenoyach B'Makubel Olav Yom Zeh Shenitna Torah Yisrael. And learning Torah and living the Torah way is not only about Olam Haba. And that is my bracha to all of us. We should enjoy every moment of this journey. And we should enjoy our learning. And many times I told this. I remember I once came to visit my great Rebbe in Yunis City. In his elderly years, he was very weak, and when I entered his room, he surprised me, and he asked, the pasuk puts chalav before dvash. So why in Shir Hashirim the pasuk says dvash v'chalav tachas l'shoynech, and dvash comes before chalav? I was surprised because that was very uncommon. He was always the one to give the answers, not to ask the questions. And I was taken aback when he asked me, do I have a thought? And I responded, like Chazal teach us, but he persisted and he said, do you have a thought? And I said, I do. And I said this. When we're dealing with actual chalav and dvash, chalav is far more important and essential than dvash. Without chalav, there would be no humankind. Every baby at the beginning of its life needs milk. Without chalav, there would be no mammals. You know what mammals are? This planet will be inhabited by reptiles and amphibians. It wouldn't be a very friendly place. The crocodiles and the snakes would rule the planet. Without dvash, we could get along fine. Probably the biggest problem we would have would be, what do you do with the tapuach b'lev Rosh Hashanah if you don't have any dvash? No, we'll solve that problem. So when we're dealing with actual cholav and dvash, cholav is far more important than dvash. Dvash v'cholav is about Torah. When it comes to Torah, you need to put the dvash before the cholav. Dvash is the beauty of Torah. Amesuke midvash v'noifes sufi. Chelbel shel Torah is amal, and that's at the very end of Masechet Birchas. Ma'idach siv kimitz cholav yoytze chemel b'mi ato moitze chelbel shel Torah chemel shel Torah b'mi shemeki oleo cholav sheyonak nishdei imoy. When it comes to Torah, you always need to put the dvash before the cholav. And that is the responsibility of Marbitzei Torah, of teachers of Torah. To teach Torah, which is appealing, which is beautiful, which is Misameach Leir, that's your responsibility. Kloiser Rebbe liked my vote. And I think I had the impression that he agrees. He agrees. And then he said something which moved my heart. And he said, Zechelki makol amoli, that I have to lead them that are margot's Torah. After living a long and accomplished life, building cities and communities, building a hospital, bringing back Klal Yisrael to HaKadosh Baruch Hu after the Holocaust. He says, Chelki makol amoli, that my Talmidim are margot's Torah. And that really moved me profoundly. So we should share many hours and many wonderful days of Birchas Torah and Simchas HaTorah and have a beautiful Yom Tov. And we should be all zoichet, makabel zan, oil Torah and all malchus shamayim ba'ava. Good Yom Tov, all the best to all of you.